Hi there, I'm Chris with Clutter Reduction Junk Removal in Southeast Florida. Today we're going to be talking about solo junk removal, the good, the bad, and the ugly from my experience and from my perspective. If you're new to this channel, I have been running solo for the past 4 years since I opened the business. I used to be a professional mover, which I believe helps me drastically on a lot of these jobs with handling them not only safely and efficiently, but also making them just flat out doable. And through that, I have experienced a lot of positives. I've had a couple of sticky situations. I've been pretty close to a more legal situation. And aside from that, I'm very familiar with the overall operations that I had no other people that have dealt with. So we're going to talk about that later on today. But first, we're going to be going by a repeat client to move a couple of things within their house from their storage and then do a quick junk removal. We're going to be stopping by some senior living facilities to drop off some brochures that we just recently had done from UZ Marketing. So if you're in the market for marketing material for your business for the new year, check out UZ Marketing. We have a link in the description. They offer free shipping, they price match, they're already kind of cheap, and they're a local company in Texas if you want to support a fellow small business, as opposed to Vistaprint, which has a very large assortment of products, but they're a little expensive and they have a shipping fee unless you spend like 150 bucks. So with UZ Marketing, they don't have a minimum and it's always going to be free shipping. So if you're interested, check it out. If not, no worries. After that, we are going to be going to another repeat client to help him kind of declutter his office and storage unit within his gym. And then we will talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So stay tuned. We did our senior living marketing for the most part. Now we're at the storage unit. We need to grab all of the empty Christmas boxes. Tanya is doing social media marketing right now. We just had someone call about removing a lazy boy, 2 small bistro chairs and a small table and some pots from a second floor apartment. So told her it'd probably be like 1/8 of a truck, and then I added in just a little bit for the stairs. So overall should be pretty straightforward. Basically gonna be like 1/8 of a truck, and go get that done after this job. All right, so we just pulled up. It's a little bit of a walk, which I didn't know until we got here. And she did add a couple of things on. So it's now gonna be a lazy boy, a little cubicle storage thing, a couple of small pots. There's 2 chairs and like a small little bistro tabletop. So I'm actually gonna bring the speed pack with me because it'll help minimize the trips, because we have to walk around the back of the building, which is very frustrating. So I'll show you our speed pack and how we can literally take 5 trips into one, and I can just fold it back up again when I get to my truck bed. So if we have the trailer, we normally just roll it right onto the trailer and that saves time, but we don't. So small labor to save a bunch of time. Use the speed pack to just do like one big trip and then I'll just get the furniture.
Okay. Well, the stairs are like tall.
Huh?
The stairs are tall.
Okay.
I don't know how long this speed pack on the stairs.
It's not going up. It'll stay down just for trips.
Yeah, quick too.
Chair and this guy. All right, quick pickup. We're actually running tight on time, so we're gonna go straight to the next senior living facility where we actually have an appointment. Charged pretty much 1/4 of a truck with the stairs added on. Otherwise, it'd kind of be in between the 1/8 and 1/4 normally. If you guys are curious with the chairs, as far as taking them downstairs, there's an obvious way to bring it down with the hand truck, but I have found that the positioning actually makes a really big difference depending on the type of chair. If it's a type of chair that reclines by having this front kick out, I would avoid taking it from the back side. That may seem like your obvious choice because not only can you cup it, but you also have that lean up against a hand truck, you have a little bit more support. However, besides the fact that these little legs here got in the way of the hand truck, as you're carrying it downstairs and going down drops, you have to worry about this going like that, and then with the weight of it, this can kick out and it's gonna push the hand truck away from you, and then that can kind of mess up what you're doing. So what I do instead is I'll actually grab it from the front. So I'll put the hand truck in the front like this, and I'll grab the top and I'll pull it towards me with the dolly. And there's one hand here. So now you're like this. So I still have the base hooked in with the hand truck. This is still leaning into the dolly, kind of like the long side of a triangle. Except now when I'm going downstairs, I can have one hand on the hand truck and I can have the other one just resting right here just to keep it from shifting around in places. But this is a very secure way to take a chair down. You don't have to worry about it popping out on you. So just a few minutes ago, I had someone call me and they're in a panic mode. They already had junk remove come out, spend about $2,000 cleaning out this house. And apparently either they left or the mom sent them home before finishing, and they already closed on the house and they need all this stuff out by this evening. So they got an extension from the realtor and they're having me go out to basically clear out whatever's left. It's no real big furniture. The biggest piece is probably like a hamper size. So I have 4 speed packs with me, which is a pretty good amount if you know about speed packs, like the one you saw earlier. Right now I'm grabbing some trash cans, and we'll use these when we are emptying out kitchen cabinets and bathroom cabinets that have liquids and any kind of like ceramic potting or anything that could break and cause damage. So that could be even for like containers of oil that are half open, like you can't donate them anymore, but we don't want them to shatter in a bag and make a mess and rip the bag open. So we'll put them in trash cans. So some of these I have pre-drilled on the bottom to make like rainwater filter through. Some of them aren't. So I just know which ones to look for. We will go ahead and do the topic of the video after that.
At least I have some. That sucks. I know. I didn't know.
Quick little update. We didn't know about the stairs and added a lot of time. So we're coming up on a full load. You can't see because my thing's not showing flashlight for some reason. Here's Tanya trucking along. Also didn't know about the stairs and she doesn't have a good knee. So had a little confusion in the beginning, and I'll talk about that in the solo tips afterwards, how I kind of paused the whole operation because I was getting a sense of there being a problem with payment ahead of time. So sometimes you just gotta trust our gut. It ended up being okay that we know of. Haven't taken payment yet, but so far so good. When it comes to solo junk removal, why I did it solo personally, number one, I didn't have the capabilities to employ somebody. I didn't have the funds for it. I didn't have the constant availability of like constant jobs coming in. I was also doing it part-time for the first 2 years while I was still working as a mover. So it just wasn't really in my books. Secondly, and as I just mentioned, I was a mover. I am used to dealing with all this stuff. And as a mover, you often end up having to learn how to do stuff yourself anyways, because you don't always have a good employee with you. And a lot of times you get a new employee who it's literally their first day. They have no idea what they're doing. And you end up doing a lot of the stuff yourself anyways. So I feel like it just kind of comes with the territory. My philosophy of junk removal is it's literally the same thing as moving, except you're not worried about the condition of the item. You're still worried about customer service. You're still worried about the condition of the property around you, just not the item itself. If it gets banged up, all it really does is mean that now you can't donate it. And in junk removal, that's not the worst thing. So it was very similar territory for me. Number 3, I don't mind the work. I could see myself doing this for another 5 years. Do I get sore sometimes? Yeah, if it's a really hard day, usually more debris jobs make me sore. Do I get tired of it? maybe like in the moment I might get frustrated, but at the end of the day, I'm pretty content with what I'm doing. And it's even more relieving knowing that it's going back into me. Like, this business is investing in myself, whether you want to look at it that way or not. And then the fourth thing is, I really didn't want to have to deal with employees with the no calls and the no shows and the call outs and, you know, being rude to customers. I saw it every day moving. Like, we'd have people, the customers like, do you mind just moving this over like a few feet so it's more center with the wall? And I've had people say F you to their customer's face, like, I'm not moving this shit again. And I'm like, dude, it'll take you 30 seconds, just move it with me. But that's something that, like, you know, you never know when you're gonna catch someone on the bad day, or they just don't care if they're a new employee with you. You don't know until something happens, and that could be a very bad situation. So that's why I personally kind of stuck solo. And honestly, it's just always been a little bit of a fear of mine to hire somebody I don't know. And it's hard to get someone you do know to work for you, because then you have, you know, altercations and you have a conflict of relationship. So that's why I did it solo personally. Now, the good thing about it, you get more profit. Obviously, you don't have payroll taxes and you don't have an hourly fee. Number two, you have the control of the situation. You are in control of everything that's happening, and you know the outcomes of what it is that you're doing. Number three, you're only relying on yourself. You are your only employee. You're the only one doing the job. So you know that you're not going to do anything stupid. You know that you're not going to be rude to the customer. You know you're not going to do anything obnoxiously incompetent while handling a piece to cause damage. You know everything that's happening because you're the one doing it. So if you trust yourself, then you trust your operation. And then the last thing is, there's less drama. As I mentioned above, with the fear of call outs and people being rude, there's a lot of drama that comes with territory of jobs. And I can 100% foresee it with junk removal, because it is a very entry level, easy exit kind of job. People figure, once I learn what to do, I can go off and do this myself. I don't need to do this. You're making $300 on this job. This took us 10 minutes. Why am I only getting paid 20 bucks an hour? All that stuff, I don't want to deal with, honestly. And that's just, it's a hurdle we'll have to cross one day, but until that comes, that's kind of just one of the things that I think about on a pretty much daily basis. And I'm like, you know, I'm glad I don't have to deal with this. So that's one of the good things. Now, let's get into the bad. All right, so when it comes to the bad, and this is my experience and my perspective, not all of it applies to me, because a lot of it's kind of self-taught, but there are some bads to it. So the first thing is, if you don't know what you're doing, you're really likely to cause damage, and you're gonna look really stupid doing it to the customer, to your future reviews and your future customers with bad referrals. And if you have any pride in your work, you're gonna feel really stupid in the moment if you go to grab something you don't know how to move. You just try to wing it and you cause damage. At least if you have somebody with you, you can for the most part avoid damage by literally keeping something off the floor, and you have more control keeping things off the walls and off the, you know, banging the door frames and stuff, if you can use dollies or if you can use somebody else to help you with something. Sometimes all it takes is just a little bit of leverage to keep something from smacking into a wall. So if you're on your own and you don't know what you're doing, you're going to be running into a really bad situation on probably a more daily basis. It's not always just carrying out boxes and little chairs here and there. You're going to have to take out big bulky couches from the 70s. You're going to have to remove armoires. You're going to have to remove big dressers upstairs. You're going to have to remove double space stand tabletops, or a really heavy glass top that's hard to move. You know, you're gonna have to move pianos. If you don't know how to do that stuff on your own, that's gonna be tricky. Number two, it is more stress mentally and physically to be by yourself, because you are the only one doing the work, and you are pretty much taking in everything around you, and you are the only one handling it. So that could take a toll on yourself. Number three, more problem solving. Now, again, if you knew what you were doing, you could avoid a lot of this, but if you don't, or maybe you're new to it, you run into a problem where, like, this isn't really fitting, I'm not sure what to do. It helps to have a second perspective there. Even if their perspective is wrong, it can still help bump something in your head to say, I don't think that'll work, but I think we can use half of that. And then I think if we tilt it this way, we can make it work. But even just having that brainstorming power, there's strength in numbers, and usually that works mentally as well. So if you run into a situation, you have somebody there to help you figure it out, versus just saying, well, shit, we're in a little bit of a pickle here. Number 4, you are always alone. Everywhere you go. That may sound nice to some people. Don't get me wrong, I'm an introvert myself, but it does get lonely. You're going to jobs by yourself, you're driving by yourself, you're going to a dump by yourself, you're going to donation by yourself. You're really only talking to your customers, but throughout the day, this could be a 10, 12-hour day, you're by yourself, and that could be lonely. So something to keep in mind. It doesn't help to have someone to shoot the shit with and joke around with. Next up, customers question your capabilities. I have this on a almost daily basis when I was by myself. I've made videos about it. I've recorded interactions while I'm giving estimates because they're talking to me in the background. People will question if you can do this yourself. They have no idea who you are. They've never seen you work before. Most people question me until I say, I used to be a mover, or they see me handle a really big piece and they're like, wow, that was impressive. And then through the rest of the move, they're just in shock and awe and they're completely fine with what's going on. But until that moment happens, most people associate a couch to be a 2-person object to move, not a 1 person with a dolly. So it's gonna come up and you're gonna have to be confident and you're gonna have to be calm about how you're explaining to somebody that you can handle it. But it's not just a matter of them jokingly saying, oh, I don't think you're gonna be able to do this. Some people will turn you away because they don't even want you in their house in case you cause damage. I have almost lost a job before in the past. Somebody came to do a job for them and it was a single guy and he had a little not great dolly and it was a pretty big piece and he was going in the house and the guy was like, you don't have any help with you? He was like, no, I do this all myself all the time. He went in there and he was dragging this thing through the top of the floor to the staircase, and the guy could hear it and he was like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just getting this piece out. He goes upstairs, scratch marks along the floor. And like, this is like a little basic IKEA bookcase, like not a big deal. And then he had a dresser which was a little heavier, but it wasn't anything crazy. And he was gonna carry it down the stairs. In my mind, I think he was gonna slide it down the stairs and just didn't even think about or didn't care about the damage, or maybe didn't know it was gonna cause any, I don't know. But the guy was furious, kicked him out of the house, called me next. I came out by myself and he was like, no, I just dealt with this shit. I'm not doing this again. This other guy was here by myself and he screwed up my floor before he even brought a piece down. And I said, I don't know who you had come out of here, but if it makes you feel any better, I used to be a mover. I've been doing this for 4 years. I've never had any serious damage. If you want, I can just take a look at the piece. You know, if I really think I need help, I have a guy I can call. We can come back later this afternoon and I'll give you a discount if that's the case. And he showed me the piece and I was like, I saw the drag marks and I was like, did he try dragging this? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, idiot. There were so many other things he could have done. I told the guy, I was like, I can put this on a blanket and slide it to the staircase, switch it to my hand truck, and dolly it down the stairs with no problem. It'll probably take me 30 seconds. The same thing with the dresser. Your staircase is pretty wide. It's a pretty straight shot. Like, this isn't going to be a big deal for me. And he was like, the fact that I was taking precaution ahead of time before even actually doing the piece, he said, okay, I trust you. And I did the job and everything was fine. And the guy was more than happy about it. But he was serious when he was like, get out of here. Like, I just dealt with this. Like, why are you guys all by yourself? And I was like, I don't know about the other guy, but I've been doing this shit. I'm confident in my abilities. So, but it's something that comes up. And I've heard of people getting rejected at the front door when they show up by themselves because people just don't know. And they have a right to not know. It's fair game. And then on top of that, being on yourself, questioning your capabilities, some people also will argue your price when it's just you. Even if you're a full-fledged business with insurance and your license and you have commercial auto, you have all this stuff, you have a truck, you have a trailer, you have a junk truck, a box truck, whatever it is, you have all your bills and everything in place, you have all your ducks lined up, but you show up by yourself charging $600 for a full load, and somebody's like, why am I like, it's just you here, like this is gonna take you 2 hours, that's how long you think it's gonna take you? Why am I paying you $600? You're making $300 an hour. And it's like, no, I'm not really, like truly I'm not. If you have a business with bills, you're not making that much money. You're gonna make maybe a quarter of it if you're lucky, assuming on how busy you are. But that's something that constantly comes up, and I've had to explain people in a few times in a polite manner, like, look, this is a business. Just because I'm here by myself, all this means is that I'm putting more stress on my body and I'm working twice as hard to be efficient to not be here all day. Otherwise, nothing in my operation is changing. Yes, I'm saving on payroll taxes and employee wages, but other than that, the level of overhead is the same for me. I'm not making all the money I'm charging you. So I've had it come up, and you just got to be calm about it and understand where they're coming from, and you just got to kind of go with it. But that is something that comes up quite often. Now, for the ugly side, this may vary for some people. This is, to me, what I believe to be the ugly side of being solo. There's really three things. Number one, and I think this is actually overlooked quite often, you are very vulnerable when you're by yourself out in these jobs. This is junk removal. You may be going to an eviction. You may be going to a house where somebody's getting divorced, but they didn't tell their spouse that you're going to be there taking away all their crap. You may be in a position where you're, maybe not in the best area, and somebody realizes that you're there by yourself in an empty house doing junk removal. Wouldn't be the craziest situation to have somebody try to rob you of all your power tools and whatever you have on you at the time, and you're the only one there. So those are things to keep in mind. There's strength in numbers. I've said this before, and I mean it in a lot of different ways. There are strength in numbers. It's much more comfortable to have somebody there with you in the event you go into a vacant house thinking there's nobody there, and maybe there's a squatter. Maybe that squatter is somebody who really doesn't want you to be there, and they're willing to fight you or worse to avoid being caught. And that could be a tricky situation by yourself. So it's something to keep in mind. Either know how to defend yourself or have a way to defend yourself, and then even then, you're still playing with fire. Number two, you damage something after confidently telling the customer, I can do this, I've been doing this for X amount of time. I will never tell a customer, I promise you I won't damage something. I will say, I will try my best, I'm pretty confident I'm good at this, and I've been doing it for a while, and if I do cause damage that's severe enough, I have insurance. If it's something that I can fix or hire someone to fix, I will have them fix it. I'm not just gonna be like, oh, I thought I could handle this. Your door is too small. I'm sorry, I put a gash in both sides of it right before you have to sell the house. You better be ready to repair those things. It looks awfully mighty stupid to screw up something you confidently tell somebody you can do despite them not believing you, because the common situation is to not have one person there. And then number three, I have almost had this happen to us. Luckily, I had my wife with me at the time on the job. You have no witnesses in legal battles with your customers. Now, this is a tricky situation because I foresee most legal battles with junk removal companies being somebody doesn't pay, and for whatever reason, someone thinks it's a good idea to just drop everything off in their front yard and leave. That could actually lead to more problems. Depending on your state, I don't know, but I can never see that happening in Florida and just getting away with it. Another thing is if you're doing, let's say, a clean out and you take everything and maybe the customer decides halfway through, oh, you weren't supposed to take that jewelry cabinet. I had $10,000 of jewelry in there. How do I know you didn't just steal it and then just claimed that I told you to take it? That's a tricky situation. Luckily, the service we're in makes it kind of hard for a judge to believe it, but that's something that we almost had a problem with for something else. I was talking about that on my channel back in 2023. We had a pretty big incident, never turned out to be anything, luckily, but it was a situation we were in where we were being told that we weren't supposed to do half the stuff we did, even though I literally have it on video. And but that's something where, again, strength in numbers. You have somebody else there who can back up what you're saying, even if they're working for you. It helps eliminate the he said, she said situation. So just something to keep in mind. Doesn't happen too often, I don't think, but it is something that I'm sure comes up. And we've been, I'm very considerate on my jobs, especially with repeat clients, and this was a repeat client. And I was completely blindsided by the whole thing because I would never do what they were claiming that I would do. But luckily, I at least had somebody else there for support to say, that's crazy. She literally had us do this and do that down step by step. It just helps to have another voice with you. So that's my opinion on the good, the bad, and the ugly. Maybe a little lengthy, but it's just trying to give some detail and my true experience and perspective on it all. So hopefully it gives you guys some insight. I will say, if you are going to do junk removal solo, I would say you should be good if you can do the following. Obviously, know how to move. That's going to literally eliminate half the problems I talked about. Be confident in yourself. not only with being able to move, but also just being able to get jobs done from start to finish and handling the whole process through, including the payment side and the customer service side with your client. Number 3, know how to speak well and know how to defend yourself in a polite manner if you are being questioned for capabilities or for price. And make sure that you know how to confidently give job estimates when it comes to pricing and what you can and can't take. You got to be confident with this stuff. Number 4, you take precautions. If you see something that you know may not be doable, don't just do it just because. Tell the customer, hey, we're pretty good at most things. I'm a little hesitant about that piece. I'm going to see if I can get some additional help for it, but at the moment, I'm going to turn it down for reliability reasons. Keep it simple. I mean, if you have like a 800-pound concrete statue in the backyard that they want you to wheel out front through bumpy grass, and you're in a tight space with a wall right here and a bunch of flower bed stuff here, obviously if that thing falls over, if you can even get it on a dolly through grass in the first place, that can cause some major damage. That may be something that you just say, you know what, I'm not going to take the risk. That could really outweigh the cost of this job and then some. I'm going to take precaution with it ahead of time. It could be the same thing if you have to bring down a really big armoire piece upstairs. Even if you brought armoires down by yourself before, maybe this one is a beast and it's super heavy and it's a tight fit. You may want to just say, you know what, I'm pretty damn confident in myself, but this is going to be tricky. Let me try to find some help or try to find an alternative to this. And the last thing, this is more of a tip, but record before and after your jobs as you notice like damage through your estimates. Take a photograph of it. You can even show your customer if you want. And it's more just to help prevent false claims. I'm really good at apartment buildings because I've learned so much through the moving companies. But when we go through an apartment building, I will typically record from when I leave my truck, the path I think we're going to be taking up to the elevator, up to the customer's floor, down to their door. I'm recording my entire way, and I'm really looking for wall damage other than like a little scratch, any gashes, any heavy scratching in the floors, elevator damage, any damage to the outdoor property like in the parking lot, because we've had it happen a lot where an apartment property manager will come out and say, hey, I know you guys are working in 504 and we just walked through and noticed that there's a really big gash in the floor. You mind explaining how that happened? And then I'm gonna need contact of your manager so I can send them over a claim. And I can say, hold on, ma'am or sir. First of all, I have photo evidence of that before we even started, and you're welcome to check your cameras to check my timestamp before you even notice us moving anything, either to or back. And secondly, you also have no proof that I was the one that in fact did it unless you have photo evidence of it prior to us arriving. And we've had a couple of situations where stuff like that has come up, and my pictures and videos have really saved my butt even with my management when I worked as a mover. And luckily I've only had one person mention it briefly on junk removal, but they just hadn't seen it before, and I was like, that was here before we got here, I have a picture of it. They didn't even need to see the picture. They're like, oh, all right, it must have been the guys yesterday, and moved on. But that's just something to help kind of keep you safe in these kind of situations. It's very common, especially because there's so many vendors at certain properties. But the same thing can happen at your customer's house. So everyone deserves to be treated fair. If you cause damage, own up to it. If you don't, and you know it wasn't you and you have photo evidence of it, tell your customer, hey, that wasn't me. Here's a picture of it before I even started my job. You know, you're just preventing false claim. You wouldn't want to do it to somebody else. You wouldn't want to have it done to you. So that is my take on solo junk removal. Hopefully you enjoy those tips. If you have any questions or questions about my experience, comment down below. Happy to answer. And until then, we will see you guys next time.